Welcome back, everybody. If you're new, my name's Nicholas, and this is Investing Against the Grain 101. For those of you who are frequent viewers of the channel or currently subscribers, this is going to be a new series, a new playlist that I'll be creating. I'll be putting out content probably once a week over the weekend, so it's not to disrupt what we currently have together with the main content of this channel. But the impetus behind this is to address a common request and frequent questions I get on how do you start investing from a basic perspective. Just how do I get started? How do I get kicked off? And so the goal of this series is to address those concerns and address those frequent questions I keep getting from people. So if you want, stick around, watch this video, watch this content, help share these types of videos with people who you think could benefit from these, whether it's people who are just getting started into investing, whether it's younger individuals, kids, young adults. Feel free to share this content with them. The goal is to create a nice foundation so then people can build off of it. So that's the goal for this new series, this new playlist. Again, these videos will be coming out over the weekend, so not to disrupt what we currently have on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday basis. Now, with that said, today's video, we're going to be addressing the very first thing you should know before you start investing, and the very first move you should make before you ever start investing, before you even think of opening a brokerage account, before you think about stocks, before you think about anything. So with that said, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell, and let's have fun with this first episode in this new series. So you want to get started with investing, but you don't know how. You don't know where to get started. Well, this episode is going to talk about where you should start. And the cool thing about this is that you don't need to know anything. You don't need to have any money. You don't have to have any stocks. You don't have to have any experience. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to build the very foundation of how to get started investing. And the first way to do that is know where your money is. So what do I mean by that? Where's your money going? Well, the truth is the majority of people do not know where their money goes. They might have some idea. I have my rent mortgage or my mortgage. I have a gas bill I have to pay for my vehicle. I have a car payment. I have this subscription. I have that subscription. But the truth is the majority of us don't actually have a real grasp of where our money goes. And the sad part is that we work very hard for our money. Every single last penny that we earn, we trade our time on this planet for that currency. To me, it is absolutely insane that people do not track every single penny that they spend. And that is the very first foundation of investing you should know. Know exactly where every last cent that you earn goes. And how do we do that? We do that by creating a spreadsheet and tracking where we spend our money. Now, this may sound daunting and like a lot of work, but I'm here to tell you it really isn't. It's very simple, and we'll start off by showing you my spreadsheet that I've had for almost 6 years now. So let's take a look at that real quick together. So here you can see an example of my spreadsheet. Now, this is an empty template I have currently, but it's the same template I have for every single month. If you can see up here, you can see I have December spreadsheet, I have November's, October, and this actually goes back pretty far, right? So this is actually a new spreadsheet I created once my fiance and I started to combine our spending. So this goes all the way back to 2018. So this has been around for a while, but I had this even before I was ever with my fiance. In fact, I've been tracking my spending pretty much since I got out of college. So I guess it's probably been more than a decade at this point. The reason we track our spending is because if you don't know where your money is going, then one, you might be losing money, or you might be spending money that you're not realizing you're spending, and you might not realize certain habits that you might have. I'll give you a quick example. What tends to happen a lot is that people think, oh, this month I had this one-time spending of this one-time item. Maybe my car tires, I had to get new car tires. And you think to yourself, oh, why don't I do that every month? Okay, within the next month, maybe you had a wedding to go to. And so you needed to buy a new suit or a new dress, and you had to buy plane tickets. Well, that's a one-time expense that you don't do every single month. Okay, within the next month, well, it's an anniversary with you and your significant other. So now you have to get gifts and go to fancy dinner. And this costs even more than what you normally would. But guess what? That's just a one-time monthly thing. And these things start to really pile up. And by the end of the year, what you don't realize is that you've had all of this absorbent amount of spending that you didn't even realize you were doing. You were just thinking, oh, this is a one-off. That's one example where having the spreadsheet can really open your eyes to the real spending you're doing. I'll give you another example. A lot of times, at the beginning of the month, we'll spend money on a certain item or we splurge at the beginning of the month only to feel that by the end of the month that we've been in self-deprivation, but we don't really realize that already in that month, we've spent a decent amount of money. So why would this help? Well, this would help because when you go back and you realize over the course of a month, all that you've done, all that you've spent money on, and how you're really treating yourself well, you're taking care of your bills, you're setting a certain amount of money aside for investments, that can help you feel better about yourself, understanding where you are from a financial perspective. The third point I want to make before we get deeper into the spreadsheet, having the spreadsheet will allow you to have a sense of calmness over yourself and over your financial situation. All right, all this stress and anxiety over money really can be alleviated by something as simple as a spreadsheet. This spreadsheet will tell me where I am, what bills I have coming up, how much I'll have in my checking account at a certain time, and make sure that I have a real grasp and handle over my expenses and my spending and any money coming in or out. I fundamentally believe that in life, with certain things, the more structure and rigidity we have to them, the more it allows us to relax, be more stress-free, and just go with the flow. For example, when I wake up in the morning, I don't worry about when am I going to brush my teeth, when I'm going to have my cup of coffee, when am I going to work out. I have my structured day. And so having those things structured allows me to just wake up and not really worry about many things because I already know what my routine is going to be. The same thing goes for having a spreadsheet. By having a spreadsheet, tracking your money, what comes in and what goes out, it allows you to freely go out and enjoy that dinner, allows you to freely go out and not worry about, oh, well, I have that bill that's going to come up or that credit card payment that's going to come up, or do I have enough in my checking account to pay for this? It alleviates all of that. This is why having a proper spreadsheet that tracks your spending, tracks your income, tracks everything that has to do with the money in your life going in and out of your account is so foundational to investing. And this is the number one building block, the one thing I recommend everybody start with. Without this, you have nothing. You have no real idea of where you are when it comes to money. So in my spreadsheet, I have a few columns, and we're going to go through each column, not so that you can replicate exactly what I do, but so that you can get an idea of what you can do for yourselves. So the first column I have is what I call my fixed bills. And here you can see I have the date on one column. Over here, I have what my fixed bills are, what I can, guarantee every single month I'm going to have these payments. And you can see I have the amounts here. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important because once you do this once, these are your fixed bills. This won't change. These numbers should not change. All right. That's the first thing. So after that, when you have to do it from to the next month and you have to recreate this sheet, all you're doing is coming in here and changing the date. And all you do is change one date and you click and you drag down. That's it. Very simple. Now, the second reason it's so important to have your fixed bills here is because as these come up, I get to compare. If you look here, here I have under the description, I have CrossFit, right? So I do CrossFit. That's our form of working out. And in the parentheses, I have $135 because I spend $135 a month on CrossFit. And so whenever it hits my account and I get charged for it, I put it in here. And now I get to compare to make sure this is the number I was expecting. If there's an anomaly, if it goes up or down or anything, I'm aware of it immediately. I'm aware that there's a difference, there's a delta that I'm not expecting or that should not be there. This has happened to me a few times, mainly with my internet bill, where I found that there's actually a dispute. I was able to reach out to my internet provider and they were able to correct it because there was an actual mistake. So having a good understanding of your bills that are reoccurring and understanding how much you should be expecting each month for those to cost and tracking it is a very good way to, one, prevent yourself from having to pay or lose money or someone taking extra money out of your bank account that you're not aware of. Two, it allows you to have a calmness of understanding what those fixed numbers should be. And three, it's so simple to do. You set it once and then you forget about it. You don't have to recreate this every time. All you have to do is change the date. So here's the next column. As I mentioned, this spreadsheet I created back in 2018 to include my fiance. So her name starts with an A, my name starts with an N, and so this column is simply for the N, which is me. So the point of this column is strictly the things I spend money on, only me, that has no involvement with her. So in this case, for example, you can see here, I have my iCloud, and other than that, there's really nothing here. This should actually be deleted because this is a new month. But so anything that comes in, I'll put it here. If I decide to play poker with some of my buddies, right, that's going to go here. That has no effect on her, so she shouldn't even be aware of that charge. It's not something that we split together. If I happen to buy new clothes, or if I happen to go out to dinner with my best friend and it's just us, right, I put those charges here. Now, with that said, what I do as well is I set myself an allowance on a monthly basis. In other words, a goal not to exceed a certain amount of spending. And so that's what you see down here. Down here, I have a $1,500 allotment that I try not to exceed. This $1,500 is not simply made up of this column of me spending. This is made up also of the spending that is combined between my fiance and myself. What I do is I take a aggregate of what we spend together. I divide that by 2 because we split those costs in half. And then I add in what I have spent individually. And together, that should not exceed $1,500. And so let's say I get close to that. All right, let's say I put here and I say I have a $1,400 spending for some random thing, okay? What you're gonna see is that this immediately goes red, all right? And this goes red to let me know, hey, you have exceeded. Let's drop this down. So if I put this at 1,100, you'll see that's at 154, still in the white. However, if I up this to say 1,200, you're going to see it goes red. Even though I still have $54 left I can spend for the month, it went red. The second I am down to $100 minimum, I have this go red. And this just gives me a good indication of, hey, you're very close to running out of your allowance. So make sure that you try to be more frugal towards the end of the month. Now, keep in mind, this is a goal. This is a aspiration to make sure I stay under this allowance every single month. Have I gone over it? Of course I have. Have I been under it? Of course I have. Now, my goal is to try and always stay under it. But if I go over by $15, $20, $100, it's not the end of the world. I'm not going to rebuke myself over it. If anything, what I tend to do is whatever I went over, I'll go ahead and add it to the next month and subtract it from that spending. And that way I try to make up for it in other ways. And it's really about looking at the bigger picture over the whole year. That's what this is about. Let's take a look at the next column now. So this third column, as you can see up here, it's A and N. In other words, the both of us combined. So honestly, the majority of our spending we do together. And then at the end of the month, we split it in a way that we seem reasonable between us. In this case, anything that we spend together, maybe we go out for a meal together, maybe we buy something new for the house, maybe we buy a present for someone because it's Christmas, anything that's us goes here. And as you can tell, we have very, very few fixed expenses between the two of us. One is our Spotify account, right? We split that. And then the other one is our clean lady. So we get the house cleaned once a month. For us, it's one of those things that we would rather spend the money on and get more time back. It's something that's very valuable to us. We appreciate exchanging money for time back. So to us, this is very valuable. But other than that, there's really not any fixed cost that we have. Up here, you can see CrossFit. So this is something that, we have that comes up every month. So it's just automatically here. This is the column where I put anything we spend together. Now, what I've done over time, just to get more of an understanding of how we're spending our money, if you look down here, I've gone ahead and I've extracted out groceries and eating out. So the reason I did this was, 1, for health reasons, and 2, to control our spending. So what started happening about maybe 6 months ago, it was really just, I think, COVID related. It seemed like we were all of a sudden ordering out a lot, or bringing a lot of, external food from restaurants or eateries, things of that nature, into our house and spending a lot of money on it. And before I had these 2 tabs, I would just put, whatever the date was and we spent money on food, whether it's groceries or eating out, I would just put them here, right? So I would put the description, I'd put the charge, and it would just pile up here throughout the dates. However, once I started realizing, okay, there's some anomaly going on here, what I did was I just decided to say all grocery spending is going to go into this column, all eating out is going to go into this column. And what this allowed me to do is really open my eyes to the delta between grocery spending and eating out spending. So I highly recommend you try that out. If you do that, What I do is anything, whether it's drinking, whether it's, you're on a road trip and you get food, doesn't matter. All that goes into eating out. And then anything that's related to grocery store goes into this tab, and just aggregate it and see which one you're spending more money on, right? To be honest, the majority of our spending tends to be on food. So it kind of was really eye-opening for us. The one other thing I would say is that under groceries, I do tend to put in our supplements for such as pre-workouts or protein. I tend to put that in there because I see that more as a kind of wholesale item that you're purchasing rather than as a eating out type experience. So that's how we do that. And then what we do is we have an allowance. We try not to exceed between each other. These numbers that you see here, this is just the aggregation of everything here. But down here, this will be the allowed. So our attempt to, try to keep within a certain budget, if you will, minus what we've currently spent. And so here you can see the remainder is that 1,015 left over. Now, again, do we go over this? Yes, it happens. Do we try to stay under? Yes. But the goal is to try to create a box of where you try to stay within. With all of these allowances, if you will, you need to make sure that they're realistic, right? You don't want to have a allowance that you try to keep yourself within that you're going to constantly just break out of, right? If you're never within that budget you set for yourself, then it's not a good budget. It's not a realistic one. So make sure it's a realistic number that you can aim for. It should be a number that is high enough where you can enjoy yourself and enjoy your life, but low enough where, you're still saving, you're still doing the right things. And maybe it's a number where by the end of the month, you're very close to going over, but you're not. All right. That's how you have that sweet spot. So with that said, this is the my fiance and I's aggregate together. So let's go on to the fourth column. So this next column, this is my fiance's column, hence why it only has an A, because this is the spending that she does on her own. I'm not going to spend too much time here. It's more or less the exact same as what we talked about with mine, right? Any spending she does on her own, if she goes and decides to buy a dress for herself, if she decides to go out with the girls and do something, right? That doesn't really involve me. So that spending falls under her bucket. And again, same thing, right? She sets an allowance for herself. As you can tell, she's a lot more diligent than I am. But then we do the same thing, right? The goal of this allowance is to take what she spends on her own plus half of what we spend together. You add those two, and hopefully she doesn't exceed her allowance. And again, this is an allowance that she set for herself so that she believes it's reasonable. She thinks she can hit it and make sure she doesn't exceed it. Does she exceed it? Yes. Does she sometimes not exceed it? Yes. Right? Again, don't think of if I exceed my allowance, that's it. It's over. I ruined the month. It's not true. Okay. The more important thing is that you're tracking where your money's going. That is very important. If you don't know where your money's going, then you really don't know anything about your money. So that's the main thing to focus on here. So this last column is one that I highly recommend you do yourself. So this is a rather personal one I'm showing you here because it shows my actual checking account balance. Now, you have to do what's right for you, but when you're fundamentally starting off with investing, you need to make sure that you have enough money in your checking account for your bills. And so that's what I have here. So here you can see that my starting off balance is just a little over $10,000 in my checking account. And my goal is that each month I maintain a minimum of $10,000 in my checking account. Now, if I exceed $10,000, what I tend to do is I take that money out and I throw it into my brokerage account. But that's for another episode. Right now, we're working on the building blocks. And so my building blocks tell me that if I stay at $10,000 in this checking account, right, and this includes, right, this gets refilled as my paychecks come in, right, for my daily job. This replenishes, and the goal is to keep at $10,000. As long as I'm at $10,000, you can see down here, this is where all of my bills come in. If you aggregate all of these bills, everything that comes out of my checking account, it comes out to, in reality, this will come out to about 35, maybe over almost $4,000 a month. Is when everything's tallied up, that's what it comes out to. I know that with that $10,000, I have over 2 months worth of cash available in my checking account. And so that's why I picked $10,000. That's why that's the number. It's a reflection of my bills and my comfort zone. Anything more than 10,000 in my account, I would feel like I'm just wasting that money there when it could be doing something else for me. Now, I don't consider this my emergency fund. I have a lot of thoughts about emergency funds, and I will make another video about that. But this is more so just so that I know that any charges that come into my checking account, anything that gets pulled out of there, I'm going to be good to go. So let's dissect this a little bit more. So here you can see the starting balance, and this number will actually be pulled from the last day of the last month of this column. So all I do is here is I would just click equals, and I would put in the tab from the previous month. Okay, again, a very easy setup. All of these numbers I don't change. I leave them. The only thing I ever add are my paychecks. And the reason I add these paychecks is because they change frequently. All right, you can see here YouTube. That's just a little cash I got from YouTube. You can see my clean lady. You can see my gas bill, my energy bill. You can see interest I get from my bank account. These numbers are all pretty much fixed, right? I get all of these numbers every single month. The only ones I left out are my paychecks because those just change every single month. Those never look the same. But the goal is to know what's coming in and what's going out. So zooming back out, you can see these are all the columns we went over. All right, this is my spreadsheet. This is something that I update about twice a month. That's all it really takes. All right, I do it somewhere around the middle of the month, and then I do it towards the end of the month. And it's literally a 5-minute ordeal. It's nothing crazy. I go through my checking account, and I put any charges or anything else taken out. I update the spreadsheet. With my credit cards, we really use one credit card, so I just update what was on that credit card. I'll update into the spreadsheet, and that's it. I do it twice a month. Really, I could do it once a month, but I do it twice a month just so I have an idea of where I am for the month. It's that simple. And then on the last day of the month, when I'm putting in my numbers for the second time, that's when I also go ahead and make the spreadsheet for the following month, which again, the only thing I'm doing is I'm deleting all the inputs that I had, not the fixed ones. I leave those, and I just change the date. That's it. It literally takes me maybe 90 seconds to create the spreadsheet for the next month. It's that simple. But the main part of this is that now I have a true grasp of my spending. I have a true grasp about what money's coming in and what money's going out. So now once you have this set up and you know where your money's going, now you can know how much money you have available to invest. And we'll talk about that in the next episode on how to go ahead and automate your investing. Automate taking money out of your checking account and sending it over to a brokerage account. All of that we'll discuss in the next video, but first you have to have the foundation. You have to have an understanding of where your money is going and where it's coming from. Once you have that, then everything else can start to follow. This, in my opinion, is the most important part of investing. Getting a true handle and grasp on your money, where it's going, where it's coming from. Not only is it important for investing, it's also important for your relationship. It's important for your own stress, for your own anxiety. All right, these are the very basic building blocks to go where you want to be. With that said, we're going to leave it there for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode 1 of Investing Against the Grain 101. Do me a favor, leave some comments down below. Let me know what you think. And don't forget, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell. I love you all. Peace.